Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome to Freaky Friday Chapter 4. I am so excited, but at the same time I am not, because Halloween is like right around the corner. Like it is, what, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 4 days away? Where did October go? For real. Like, this has been the fastest month of the year. Probably because I don't want it to go by fast, of course, you know, because... Alright guys, today we're going to read 3 more scary stories. I hope you enjoy it. Settle in with some hot cocoa and a Gryffindor warm and cozy jacket if you have one, because, oh god, I love this jacket. So the first story I'm going to read you is called The Woman in Black. I've never been particularly fond of cemeteries, but at the same time, I don't have a fear of them, except one. One cemetery in particular. A cemetery that makes me change the route I take to go to a nearby town. This happened in 2000 or 2001 when I was 12 or so, but I still remember it like it just happened. My cousin died in a motorcycle accident and was buried in a cemetery a few miles from my childhood home. He was buried with what was left of his bike and had a beautiful tombstone. My brother and I went to pay our respects one afternoon. It was a sunny day and pretty warm with a slight breeze in the air, nothing out of the ordinary. This cemetery had always made me feel slightly unsettled. It would have fit right in with the setting and feel of Blair Witch Project. It sits directly off the road and is enclosed by a tree line on the left and right side as well as the back. It has an overbearing feel, like the woods are closing in on you, wanting to take you in and never let you leave. We pulled off the road at the edge of the cemetery and looked around for a minute until we found the freshly raised pile of dirt associated with the recently deceased. We got out of the car and entered the cemetery from the only way one can enter, from the road. I turned and looked back at the road. I felt very uneasy, and Steve's grave was directly in the middle of the cemetery. Slowly we made our way to Steve's tombstone, which was every bit as beautiful as we had been told. We stood there for a minute when I realized that the sky had suddenly become filled with clouds and very cool chill had come over the air. I was ready to GTFO while my brother continued to read the gravestone. Something caught my eye along the tree line to the right. I looked up and saw a woman dressed in all black, from head to toe, at the back right corner of the forest. She was walking towards us. I froze as she continued towards us and I couldn't look away. She had on a black veil and was carrying a basket. I couldn't see her face, hands, or feet. I was terrified and she was getting closer. My brother finally noticed her after asking what I was looking at. She was suddenly upon us as if she had skipped 20 feet in one step. She was now directly in front of us, just standing there. My brother and I both just kept looking at the ground for what felt like an eternity. Suddenly, without warning, she continued on her path to a tombstone on our left. I watched intently while my brother refused to look up. She approached a very small, very old headstone. I turned to my brother and said, "Look." When we turned, she was gone, completely vanished from the middle of the cemetery in an instant. But the basket lay in front of the tombstone. I couldn't help but wander over. The stone had the name Marie and a birth date of October 10th, 1852, and a death date of August 12th, 1854. In the basket was an old baby blanket. We immediately left, and I have never been back to this day. I'll never forget the feeling of that day or the sight of the woman in black. So I kind of like that story because, graveyards, not necessarily for me. I really like graveyards. I find them peaceful, but a lot of people find them creepy, and yes, sometimes they can have a creepy feel to them. But I also was really attracted to the Woman in Black aspect because, oh man, Woman in Black, that movie, oh god. I have seen it once in the theater. I own it. But I have not watched it since because that's one of those movies I cannot watch alone because for some reason, and I've never been able to figure out why, but women in veils freak me out so freaking bad. I cannot stand watching or looking at something with a woman in a veil. No. So the next story I'm going to read you is called Where Have You Been? One of my great aunts owns a small farm in Wisconsin. It is about 40-50 minutes outside of town. And on weekends I'd sometimes go there with my mom, brother, grandma, cousins, or whoever felt like going that weekend. One time it was just me with my mom, my aunt, and my great aunt. While the three of them sat on the porch, I started to wander around the farm like I usually did, playing with the farm cats, chasing chickens, talking to cows, etc. When I walked behind the house, there was a girl standing there on the far side of the yard. I called out to her and walked over. 10-year-old suburban me, living on a block with tons of kids, doesn't consider the fact that the nearest neighbor is miles away and that her being there is just sort of weird. She asks, "Where have you been?" Not "who are you" or "hi." I think she means something else, and I tell her that I don't live here. This is my aunt's house. She asks me who my aunt is, and we kind of talk a little bit. I say kind of because she's very awkward and just stands there in total silence before she answers or asks a question. I get more uncomfortable being there, but I'm not scared. I just think it's because this girl is kind of weird and I'd rather be playing by myself. After another moment of silence, she asks, "Where have you been?" This time I tell her that I've been with my mom and aunt all day. She suddenly glares at me. It was like I insulted her. We stand there for a moment and I try to think of a not mean excuse to leave, but then she says she wants to show me something. She turns and runs towards the barn. At first I don't follow. She stops halfway and tells me to come on and starts running again. I start running after her. She runs down the side of the barn and turns the corner to go behind it. I follow and turn the corner after her and nothing. There's no one there. There are just a couple of small trees and an empty field. I'd like to again emphasize I was right behind her, like maybe a couple of seconds behind her at most. I stop confused and yell out for her. Nothing. I figure she must have kept going, so I run quickly along the back of the barn and turn the next corner, only to find my mom, who looks like she's been crying. My mom grabs me and, totally furious, demands to know where I've been and why I didn't respond to her calling for me. She and my aunts have been looking for me everywhere and were about to call the cops. Apparently I'd been missing for well over an hour. At this point, I'm very confused. I tell her I hadn't left the yard and I was just behind the house. Mom insists I wasn't behind the house because they've been looking all over trying to find me. I honestly don't know what to make of this whole episode, so to this day I just categorize it under something that happens. I know kids sometimes lose track of time, but even looking back now, there's no way I was gone more than 30 minutes at most. Plus, 3 other people insist they tore the place apart for the better part of an hour trying to find me. I didn't hear or see them. I also to this day don't know who the girl was or where she went. She wasn't behind the barn, couldn't have gotten into the barn, and couldn't have run past my mother without her seeing. My aunt said there were no girls that age that lived anywhere nearby, and at the time, they all thought I made it up to get out of trouble. I don't know, I just kind of like that story because like the whole like time loss thing, and it's just kind of spooky, like where was he? Alright, the last story I'm going to tell you guys is a story called Steven. One summer, my college roommate and I got obsessed playing with a Ouija board she'd brought from home. I had never had one because my mom was very, very superstitious. One time in the 80s, I wore my huge hair with 2 barrettes in front. It cast a shadow that made them look vaguely like devil's horns, and she literally freaked out. Sounds like my mom. Anyway, I made up for lost time, asking the board everything from what kind of drink I should have, what takeout. I even took a fall semester class list and asked nickname, we were close. Usually the answers were easily attributed to our state of mind or cravings, but once in a while we'd get some crappy answers. Or rather, I would. Does my boyfriend love me? No. Is he cheating on me? Yes. Will I ever get married? Never. Will I have children? Dead. And so on and so forth. Of course, I accused my roomie of working out some passive-aggressive overflow, which she denied, so we decided to get to the bottom of it. Are you a relative? Yes. Of Astrid's? No. On my mom's side or my dad's side? No. Are you evil? Very. Can you make things happen? Already have. After a couple of conversations went pretty much the same way, we stowed the board and didn't give it a second thought. But we did ask one final question. What's your name? Stephen. Flash forward about 3 years. I'm in the car with my mom, one of my little sisters, and her friend right around Halloween time. Somehow the conversation turns to Ouija boards. My sister's trying to challenge my mother on the silly ban. Normally, I would be on my sister's side regardless of the scenario, but I remembered how spooked I was, so I decided to share the story. When I got to the final part, the identity of the entity, my mother gasped and pulled to the side of the road. It took at least a full minute before she calmed down enough to talk. Stephen was the name of my biological father's father. According to my mother, he absolutely hated her. Had discouraged the marriage, disinherited my father when she got pregnant, challenged her on the paternity, and he died in the same hospital I was born in, 3 hours before my birth. His last words to my father were, "Now you'll have to live with your mistakes forever." They divorced when I was 18 months old, and I never knew any of this history. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this Freaky Friday scary story time. I ended with a Ouija board story because, okay, I have never been one to play with a Ouija board. I never have. I don't see myself ever playing with one. But still, like, Ouija board stories scare the crap out of me. And they just fascinate me. I don't know why people are crazy enough to do this over and over and over again. But they do. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed these scary stories. I hope you're excited for Halloween. I am so excited. Can't wait to show you guys my costume. I hope you guys enjoyed Charlie's costume because it's freaking hilarious. Matt made me put it back on her so that he could see. And I'm pretty sure she's going to be wearing it on Halloween also, even though she's going to hate it. Alright, thank you guys so much. I love you, and I will see you later.